The air around me smelled of salt and sea. Waves lapped lazily at the shore, harmonizing with the whistling of the wind. Vacation was upon me, and I had chosen to go to a place that harbored a bittersweet nostalgia. Amelia's Cove was a place for family fun. Fractured as my family was, being raised by a single father, I thoroughly enjoyed every second there. The park attraction of the same name was a kid's paradise. A mini water park and an arcade had little me in heaven. Walking through those doors again gave me the rush it always had, even all these years later. With a big grin on my face, I approached the front desk clerk and got the keys to my room. I saw very few people in passing, which I thought was strange, because this was decidedly the busy season. But as soon as I opened the door to my room, all other thoughts were swept away. The sun beamed in from the balcony, sending a golden light over everything in the room. A vintage-looking vanity sat at the foot of the room. The bed was draped in sand and cerulean-shaded bedding, with a handwritten note placed neatly on the pillow. Welcome to Amelia's Cove. We are pleased to have you as you enjoy our many amenities. Relax by the pool, or jump right in with the super slide, get in your gaming at the arcade, eat at our award-winning seafood restaurant The Wharf, or enjoy riveting evening entertainment at the lounge. Thank you, and please, enjoy your stay. P.S. Please stay off of the beach after 7 p.m., the rocks are slippery when wet, and visibility is low at dusk. The lounge? Maybe I'll check that out tonight. After I take a nap. I quickly threw on my oversized t-shirt, and climbed into bed. No sooner than my head hit the pillow, and I was out like a light. Walking barefoot on the sand, I felt an unease I had never felt before. The night sky above me glimmered with stars. I was not alone. A woman followed closely behind me, humming an unrecognizable tune. I was horrified, but kept my pace, hoping she'd leave me be. Abruptly, she grabbed me by the shoulders and spun me around. What I saw terrified me. Someone or something had inflicted massive damage on her. Her face had been utterly destroyed. Blood covered her, matted into her hair and clothing. A sudden feeling of sadness, betrayal, and melancholy washed over me in waves that mimicked the ones that lapped at the shore. She felt familiar, almost like. I woke up in a cold sweat. I rushed to the bathroom as my gut began to twist violently. The contents of my stomach voided themselves just in time for me to reach the toilet. What was that? I barely even dream, and when I do it's just nonsensical. That felt very visceral. Like someone was trying to tell me something. I closed my eyes and sighed deeply, willing myself to forget. Suddenly the walls were too close, and the air was too stale, and I needed out. I slipped into some clothes, and then slipped out the door, ready for a distraction. The halls were eerily empty, quiet too. Usually you would at least hear the murmur of a hushed conversation, or the giggle of children playing nearby. This was what it felt like being the last person on earth. I didn't like it. I speed-walked the halls, following the signs that led to the mysterious lounge, glancing behind me. I had the uncanny sensation that something insidious was looming. Finally, I reached the archway donned with a plaque reading "The Lounge." Approaching the bar, I was greeted by a solemn-looking barkeep. "What can I get you, ma'am?" In a shaky voice, I ordered a rum and coke. I took a big gulp and tried to calm my nerves. But there would be no reprieve. The sound of a band beginning to play on the stage startled me. Bright overhead lights flicked on to show a woman standing upon it, a band behind her starting to play. Her dark brown hair was curled in tight ringlets, her makeup was applied expertly, and she was dressed to the nines in an emerald sequin gown. She was stunningly beautiful, but also strikingly familiar. Slipping through my fingertips was the only thing my feeble memory could seem to do. It was frustrating. The world seemed to stop for a second, and then she began to sing. The words seemed to melt away the stage as a scene began to play inside my head. A woman cradling a baby, with a tall broad man by her side. They walk into the front doors of the resort. Next, there in the room, the woman carefully places the child in a crib. Her face is hidden by her dark hair, but her shoulders heave with silent sobs. I feel a sharp ache in my chest. The man is sat at the bar. A woman is sitting next to him, whispering into his ear. His wedding band glints in the dim lights of the bar. He slips it into his pocket. I hate him. The dark-haired woman happens upon the scene. My eyes fill with tears as hers had. They spin around as the feeling of eyes on them registered. Abruptly, the woman lunges forward, landing a slap on the man's face, a face that I suddenly recognized. As the other woman scurries away in shock, the man, my father, firmly but calmly grabs the woman's arm and leads her outside towards the beach. She pulls away from him and begins to run away, hair wild and eyes filled with terror. He chases, his face a mask of anger. Closing in on her at a secluded part of the beach, he lunges forward and slips, but manages to grab her ankle, causing her to fall face first into the slippery rocks. He drags her, flips her over, and begins to pummel her. I want to look away. I don't want to see this. He's evil. I hate him. He is the devil incarnate. Once he stops, covered in blood and sweat, and sand and sea, he just stares out into the water. He almost looks remorseful. He grabs the poor woman's hand, and then I see it. A ring with a gold band and a tiny opal stone. The very same ring that hung around my neck. The very same ring that my mother had left behind for me when she left us in the middle of the night. Suddenly snapping back to reality, I realized the bar was closing up, and the woman, my mother, had disappeared along with the band. "Ma'am? Are you okay?" the barkeep asked. It was then that I felt the tears on my face. Yes, I'm fine. Where did that singer go, if I may ask? I want to tell her how lovely her voice is. I forced a smile. He looked at me in confusion. Singer? Are you sure you're okay? Confused myself, I simply nodded and headed back to my room. As I shut the door and spun around, I saw her. In that same shimmering dress, with a sad smile on her face. Do you know how long I've waited here for you? Unable to speak, I shook my head solemnly. I watched you when you were younger. I couldn't possibly have shown you the truth then. You were too young. And then you stopped coming. I've waited so long. And now you're here. She walked towards me, cupping my face in her hands. I finally found the nerve to speak. I saw what he did to you. He's a monster. A murderer. He let me think. He let me believe that you abandoned me. She nodded. I know, Dove. Trust me. The hate I have for that man is part of what keeps me here. The coward couldn't even face up to what he'd done. But that's okay. Now you have his truth. What we do with that is up to you. I nodded, murderous, monstrous intentions on my mind.